Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our fifth webinar as part of our Clean Energy Capacity Building Program. Today's session is focused on clean energy programs and funding opportunities across Maryland. As usual, we're going to record this session, and I'll send out a copy of the recording as well as our presenter slides to everyone after the call. Like I mentioned just a minute ago, we have a pretty packed agenda, but an exciting agenda. We've invited several state agencies and green banks to join us today and share more about their programs, financial products, and funding opportunities. A lot of these folks may look familiar from our kickoff back in May, but the purpose of this call is to dive deeper into the programs that they highlighted during our kickoff. So first, we're going to hear from Cindy Castro, the Program Coordinator for Housing and Building Energy Programs at Maryland's Department of Housing and Community Development, who's going to share more about DHCD's MIHA programs. Then we're going to hear from Angel Souls, the Energy Equity Program Manager at Maryland Energy Administration, who will walk through MEA's FY 2026 Clean Energy and Energy Efficiency Programs and funding opportunities. After Angel, Keith Wang, the Finance Manager at Maryland Clean Energy Center, present on MCEC's various financial products, as well as Maryland Solar for All program. And wrapping us up is Stephen Morrell, the CEO of the Montgomery County Green Bank. As always, we encourage folks to add questions to the chat at any point. We'll make sure we leave a minute or two after each presentation for any quick clarifying questions, but we will have time at the end for a full Q&A. So with that, Cindy, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Madeline. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for inviting us to this webinar today. So I am Cindy with the Maryland Department of Housing and Community Development. I am the Program Coordinator for our Multifamily Energy Efficiency and Housing Affordability Program. So next slide, please. Thank you. I'm going to go over a couple of the programs that we have and funding opportunities available here with Maryland's DHCD. I'll go over a couple of case studies so you can see real world applications of how this funding has helped these projects, and also go through the funding process for how we can actually get the funding from DHCD to you and your project. Next slide, please. Our main funding source is Empower, which is funded by a surcharge on the utility bill. Empower funds energy efficiency and electrification, and it's based on a measure-by-measure basis. So if you have an aging property that has systems that are in need of replacement, let's say space heating, water heating, windows, appliances, items of that nature, this is the program for you. There's no project funding cap, but there are funding caps on a measure-by-measure basis. There is a 5-year affordability requirement for Empower funds. So if you don't already have a restrictive covenant in place, a 5-year affordability restriction will be placed in the grant agreement, and you would need to provide at least 20% of units at or below 80% AMI. The funding can be provided as grants or loans, and the loans are 0% interest and deferred payment. And eligibility requirements are just that your project is located in one of the participating utility territories. It's also funded on a 3-year cycle basis, and we are in the middle of the current cycle. So the next cycle will begin in 2027, where we'll receive more funding. Next slide, please. Our other funding source is the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Program, or the GHGRP. And this program is intended for projects that are required to meet Maryland's building energy performance standards. So if you have a building that's 35,000 gross square feet or greater that has fossil fuel burning equipment and you are looking to electrify, you are likely eligible for GHGRP. So it can cover a portion of electrification hard and soft costs, and that ranges anywhere from an electrification assessment and engineering fees all the way up to, the replacement of a gas boiler with heat pumps. So this funding is a little bit different. There are funding caps that are $15,000 per unit with a project cap of $1.25 million. And the affordability terms are a little bit longer at 15 years. You would need to provide at least 51% of units at or below 80% AMI for at least 15 years. Now these funds can be provided as loans and grants. And for eligibility, like I mentioned before, it would just need to be required to meet that, and you're likely eligible for GHGRP funding. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is one of our case studies. If you've seen our presentations before, you're probably familiar with it. We love using it as an example. This is Parkway Apartments, or sorry, the Overlook Apartments, formerly known as Parkway Apartments. It's located in Temple Hills, Maryland. It's 159 units across 14 buildings. Empower provided almost $1.5 million for energy efficiency upgrades, which include high efficiency heat pumps, attic insulation, refrigerators, and LED lighting, and the maximum $1.25 million for greenhouse gas reduction program funding. And that was for some of the electrification costs, transformer, heavy up wiring associated with the electrification of the building. And so they were reporting an annual utility bill reduction of about $85,000 in electricity and $60,000 in gas. That's what the owners reported. So it's very significant. And as far as project costs, the owner reported that it was about $4 million. And with DHCD providing the amount of funding that we did, the owner cost was only $1.4 million. So we covered about 65% of the total cost for the renovation of the project. Next slide, please. And another case study is Maplewood Apartments. This is located in Baltimore, Maryland. 219 units across 33 buildings. Empower provided over $2 million in funding for space heating and cooling, air sealing and insulation, heat pump water heaters, and lighting. And the owner reported an average of 40% reduction on unit energy use, which is also very significant. Next slide, please. As far as the funding process, we encourage everyone to firstly apply. We have our application on our website, and you'll see the QR code for our website on the last slide. Filling out that application just provides basic information about your project so that we're aware you're in our pipeline, and we will also let you know which funding sources your project is eligible for. Once we let you know you have an energy audit completed on the property from one of our qualified energy professionals, then you'll submit a funding request. We'll review that funding request and determine the amount of funding based on our program guidance. We'll execute all the documents. And once the project goes under construction, then you can requisition for funds throughout construction. And that can be done as often as you'd like. We would just have our project managers inspect and approve those installed measures, and then we'll release the funding. And once construction is complete, then the project goes into the affordability period. Next slide, please. So you can scan this QR code. The slides will be shared, so you'll have access to this. It links to our website, and you can go ahead and just submit an application through there. There's also a list of our qualified energy professionals for this year. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to the MIHA team. There's our email, and we look forward to working with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Cindy. Are there any quick clarifying questions for Cindy about the MIHA programs? Oh yeah, go ahead, Echo.
Hi. I was wondering about I guess, why would a project choose both the Empower and the other funding? Would that be a factor of kind of the cap of funds, and then I guess for the Empower that's paid back as you said that was on the tax bill, is that correct? I was just curious how that is, if there's no cap on the funding amount, how it is underwritten, like what is there an effective cap based on what a property can afford, based on some kind of metric?
Yeah, so those are great questions. The first one is whether why a project would choose Empower versus GHGRP. You can actually use them in tandem. So, Empower funds are typically used for energy efficiency measures. So you can use that for the equipment itself. And then the GHGRP can kind of piggyback on top of that, assuming the project is eligible for those electrification measures and kind of the heavy up of the project. That's what we intend for the program. And then as far as caps, so Empower is no project cap, but there are caps on a measure by measure basis. So you could receive up to $6,000 for a heat pump. You could receive $750 per refrigerator, and that's how it's done. Once we complete our review, we'll share a scope review with the owner so that you can see your owner's costs and determine if that works for your portfolio.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Any other quick questions? No? Okay, great. Well, thank you, Cindy. And again, we'll have plenty of time at the end for more questions if things pop up. Angel, I know that you had a document that you wanted to share. So next we're going to hear from Angel with MEA to talk about MEA's FY 2026 programs.
Great, thank you so much. Let me get to what I want to share here. And if somebody would just confirm you can see it, that would be great.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome. So hi everybody, my name is Angel Souls. I am the program manager for energy efficiency, as Madeline said, but I want to talk a little bit about everything that's available to you. A couple of the differences in DHCD's work and ours is that the monies must be energy focused, of course, because we're the Maryland Energy Administration. And unfortunately, we're not as succinct in that you can put in one application and qualify for a bunch of different things using that one application. We are aware that that is something that could be really helpful, and working on getting there. We're not there quite yet. So what I'm introducing you to today are a bunch of different programs that could work for a project. And then you would want to be in contact with that program manager in particular, depending on what you want to be doing to the building. So our funding also, I just want to clarify, is not tax-based or any of that. It comes from the Strategic Energy Investment Fund from Maryland. And we have a little flexibility in how we spend that funding. There's just less restrictions. And that tends to be helpful if you have a project that is very creative and you're not sure that it will qualify for certain funding. Come to us and we probably have a program that fits it. I'll also like to say that we have the IRA program, which is federally funded. Right now, it still exists. It is not fully operational yet. So just stay tuned for that one. So this document I'm sharing is on our website, energy.maryland.gov, and then you would hover over grants and incentives, and you will see at the top of the page that you can click this and get a general understanding of what's going to be available for fiscal year 26. I think also something that's important to say is that the timing on putting in these applications is important for how your project is going to shake out. So fiscal year 26, we have applications open now for some programs, and some other programs are coming available in September. And funding will be available next July for most programs. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about putting in your applications and when you want to be starting work. You can start spending next year. Okay, so we have the breakdown is based on categories, basically. So clean energy and resilience are going to be things like solar and battery storage and things like that. We have programs that work for individual residents, and then also programs that work for multifamily property, and then even for like community-based buildings that are owned by small municipalities or local governments and things like that. We're really focused on solar, of course, and then again, some Maryland Solar Access Program, for instance, would be for rebates for actual individual residents who want solar on their home. Some of these are income-based, not 100% of the programs are, but some of them are. What we try to do is make sure we're matching um, Department of Housing and Community Development on some of their income-based programs. We're using that same metric. And then others have a slightly higher cap when they're choosing to include moderate income. So for instance, the Maryland Solar Access Program is going to be 150% of state median income or below to capture moderate and the lower income bracket. And once you click into the program website, there's a table for you to see. Moving down to residential, and that would be both single family and multifamily buildings. We're going to have the Residential Energy Equity Program and that's the program that I manage. And we have recently absorbed the Solar Equity Program as well. So now we're going to be two programs combined into one, starting in fiscal year 26. Our funding opportunity announcement, which explains the application instructions, is going to be released in September. And again, we're matching the income 80% of state median income and below for our programs, just to make it parallel with Department of Housing and Community Development's programs. And that is for energy efficiency work, for solar work, and for other electrification work. We, like I said, have some flexibility. So a lot of our application processes, tell us what the project is, explain it really well, give us a reason to say yes to these funds. And then for most programs through MEA, it's a reimbursement. So the work gets done, you prove it's done, reimburse those funds. And then, of course, we do have, of course, an asterisk near the Inflation Reduction Act program that's coming down the pike. Just stay tuned if you want to sign up for alerts. There's also a place to do that on the energy.maryland.gov. So you can be notified as things progress with that. Commercial and community energy programs, they also have some funding that would include multifamily buildings. But if the community has other commercial buildings, or even some agricultural land and things like that, that would be attached to the building, that's where that's going to come in. Commercial and community energy programs. These are also grants, but we do have a loan program that's run by my colleague Jose. And that's if that's going to be appropriate for your project. Again, a lot of these do not depend on income. So they will fit nicely with a lot of different multifamily projects if they're not going to be income-based properties. Clean energy or clean transportation and innovation programs. We have monies available if a community is going to install charging equipment for electric vehicles on property. There's money for that. And then the one other program that I want to make sure to point out is our Open Energy Grant Program. If you have something that just doesn't quite fit anybody's funding and requirements, Open is where you go to say, hey, I have a unique situation here, and we really like some funding to help us, get this off the ground. You would go to Open because it doesn't perfectly fit into any other program. So I would say that's a good one to be paying attention to as well. And then the other thing is you can use multiple different funding programs from MEA to fund different parts of your project. So you can't, double dip, of course, but if you want to do, something geothermal related under open, then you want to do energy efficient appliances in HVAC through equity. You want to put some solar on there and build a resiliency hub on your multifamily property. You can do all of those things together using the different funding. Again, I said at the top that unfortunately we don't have one solitary application that allows you to do that. But if it becomes too cumbersome to do that, give us a call. We'll figure it out together. I've had many calls with multifamily developers where all of my colleagues together got on, and we're figuring out a game plan how to make that project work with all the different timelines that the different programs have and different requirements in terms of reporting and reimbursement. It's really about having a conversation until we can get to the point where we're that, one-stop shop. So I think that's really the bulk of what I wanted to say. Again, you can find this on our website, energy.maryland.gov, and then you can sign up for alerts there as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Angel. And I'll make sure that we, in the follow-up email, include a link to this resource as well as the subscription button where you can sign up to get updates as these programs launch.
Okay.
Any questions for Angel?
Hi, I have a question. You had mentioned that a lot of your funding sources, you work closely with DHCD for those programs. If we're already working with DHCD, what funding sources should we be tapping into additionally?
So the funding source differs in that a lot of their programs will come through Empower money and have that set of rules. And then our funding comes from SEEF and then has that set of rules. Those are the main two things, unless you're using federal monies, which would be like the WAP program and things like that. Where we pair well, I would say, is mainly on the residential side. It's great to use DHCD first and then use ME a little less restrictive. So leveraging our funding is really great for whatever type of funding you want to use. A lot of people may get money from like the Montgomery County Green Bank or some kind of energy loan program or something like that. And then MEA covers those gaps, which is essentially what we're intended to do.
Okay, but it's still a two-step process. So if we're working on a MIHA application, we should still be reaching out to MEA separately to see if there's additional funding available.
Right. So right now we don't have like a cross-agency sharing of information in particular. So yes, unfortunately, it would be a two-step process. Get your funding together with them, and then for do a separate application with us. So yeah, that's the answer.
Okay. And are all of your funding sources, is it a rolling application or are there windows where the application's open?
There are windows. So usually once a program is released, so this year we have two release dates, mainly July and September. And then there's typically a 60 to 90-day window where applications are accepted. And then those parties are notified of their acceptance in the beginning of the following year. And then all the paperwork is executed in the spring for the monies to start being spent in the summer.
Great. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Any other quick questions? Otherwise, we do have our Q&A portion at the end. In the meantime, I'll pull up slides. Okay. So up next, we have Keith with MCEC to talk about their financial products as well as the Maryland's overall program.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Keith Wang. I'm the finance manager here at the Maryland Clean Energy Center. Next slide. So for those that don't know what we do, we're a quasi-governmental instrumentality of the state, and we serve as the statewide Green Bank, along with Steve Morrell and Montgomery County Green Bank. So our mission is to increase clean energy jobs, drive commercialization of climate-related technological innovations, and enable the equitable adoption of clean energy products and services to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So we facilitate access to capital, and then we operate some financial programs that we'll kind of talk about here in a second, or we'll leverage using leverage or direct investment at that point. So next slide. So really, our goal is to take, and I should mention we have a procurement department too, right? And so we do have a specialized procurement and technical support department that can help with projects as well. So right, really our goal is to take an idea that you guys have and bring it from that concept to all the way to the funding of the idea and the completion, I should say, of the idea. And we have programs that can do that. And so we'll talk about those. So next slide. And this is just a map. I put this in there because it kind of shows, especially for our procurement and technical assistance, these are the types of organizations that they've worked with and the locations, right? So as you can see, there's nonprofits. They've worked with schools, state agencies, governments, and then, right, obviously the locations were kind of all over state here. All right, so next slide. So the three, and I should say this, right? If any of you guys have projects in mind in particular, the easiest thing to do is call us so we can kind of figure out what fits where, I guess you could say. So our one program, our MCAP program, Maryland Clean Energy Capital, that's taxable and tax exempt bonds, right? And those projects are typically 5 million or more. And then since they're tax exempt, right, the rates are lower than the market. We are the administrator of the PACE program in the state, right? So that does leverage, private capital for loans, and that those liens go on the tax assessment. The advantage to those is a couple things. One is the amortization of those is normally 25 years. Sometimes I think they can go 30, but for the most part, it's a longer AM, so the payment's lower. Also, since it's a tax assessment, a lot of times the PACE debt stays with the property when sold, right? So you could kind of look at it as built-in equity if you do a PACE deal, because it'll pretty much convey to the next property owner. And then another fund that we have is called the Climate Catalytic Capital Fund, and it's a small allocation that we get of $5 million a year that we can pretty much either use as a credit enhancement or use it to leverage private investment. And we can pretty much do whatever we want. So it's been around now for a couple of years. We have 45 plus applications that we're going through, but it's an idea that if you need possibly something to fill in a gap on financing, that it's a good idea to apply for. Okay, so next slide. So right, especially now with, I think, kind of a little uncertainty in financing in this space, we've, as a team at MCEC, have been trying to identify ways that we can be creative or use products that, could help out, especially, stuff like affordable housing. So one of the things that we've come up with, and I'll be honest, we're new to the space, but we've done several, I should say, tax-exempt financing deals. But as far as private activity bonds, right, which are essentially our bonds that we issue, for projects that primarily benefit a private entity but serve a public purpose. These are bonds that can be used for that purpose. So, from what I remember, the the amortization on these is a little lower. It's 10% or 10 years, but the rates on these will still be tax-exempt financing rates. So, for example, we're going through a tax-exempt financing for an entity right now, and that rate is hovering around less than 5%, right? It's not fixed till we close, but it should close around 5%. Right. So the big, the big advantage here is the lower interest rates. Right. These would still be eligible for the LIHTC, the low income housing tax credit, right? If 50% or more of the project is financed through a tax-exempt bond. Right. And then these can fund new construction or rehab and acquisition loans. So next slide. So this is the PACE work that we've done in the state as of now. We actually just closed the largest PACE loan in the history of the program last month. It was a $26 million PACE loan that was part of a capital stack for the Paramount Theater and concert venue in Baltimore. So PACE is I come from the commercial financing world, and it's technically always is part of an additional capital stack, but we also have a couple loans in the pipeline that are PACE can retroactive go 3 years back that are looking to kind of go back and take out the energy efficiency portions of the project. And again, like I said, the key here is that it's a longer amortization, and if you sell the property, it can convey to the new property owner. So I mean that's right. It's kind of built-in equity there. And the exciting thing is we had been using an outside vendor, a contractor, to run the program for us, but this program PACE at this point, starting August 31st, will be run exclusively by the state of Maryland. Next slide. So again, the Climate Catalytic Fund, the C3 fund. So this is it's a fun fund for us because it's almost like a Shark Tank type fund where we don't have it's not a huge fund. It's $5 million over 3 years, but it is the range of projects it can touch is very broad. So and the use too, right? So it can be a grant, it can be a low interest loan. It could be a convertible note, right? We are looking at credit enhancement, so it could be like a LLR or interest buy down. We also have an application for a revolving line of credit, like a working line of credit. So it's a really fun fund for us, and that's one of those, right? I always think that if you're interested in that, it's easiest to just call us, and then we can talk about maybe the best way to get that approved. Again, it is a small fund. But it is for us, it's kind of exciting and fun. All right, so next slide. Next slide.
Sorry, there's like a weird lag sometimes.
No worries. No
Sorry.
worries. So Solar for All, right? So Solar for All is I will say this, right? They're still working out the kinks of deploying all the funds, but I did want to put this slide in there just because I think it's going to roll out pretty soon here. We can again, there's an actual department team for Solar for All. I'm part of it, but I'm not the main part of it. So for any other questions, I can put you guys to the right spot for Solar for All. Next slide. And then, right, Solar for All is essentially broken up into these 4 categories. So there's residential, right, multifamily, community solar, and then strategic financing. And then next slide. And we have our summit. So our summit is October 14th and 15th of this year, and we'd love to see you guys there. If you guys have any questions on that, please feel free to reach out as well. And then for me, next slide, that's all. So, a lot of our stuff, to be honest, is the best way to do it is to reach out. We have a conversation, and we kind of can see what fits best for you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Keith.
Yeah.
Any questions for Keith about MCEC financial products he shared?
I have a question.
Yes.
I love the concept of CPACE, but I understand for a number of reasons it's typically not deployed on affordable housing. I wonder if you have any experience with deploying it on affordable housing or any thoughts on that?
So we have actually one application in now that is conversion of a office to affordable housing. And I should say this, right? Like since we've had an administrator that administrated the program in the past, and us just taking over, you know, that's I there probably are in the pipeline. I'm not aware of or not too familiar with those projects in particular.
Do you know how your CPACE program would differ from the Empower program that was talked about earlier?
I don't know the Empower program that well at all, but I do know, like I said, the big advantages here of PACE, like I said, it's rates are market, right? So it's not going to be a lower rate, but it is a longer amortization, right? Which really helps. And you can finance 100% of the energy efficiency cost, right? So at that point, right, there's some cost savings there. And then we have, I think somebody just paid off or sold the property, right? And so, for instance, if we use Paramount as that example, that total project size was, I think, $86 million, right? The pace on that was 25 or $26 million, right? So if they were paid, I mean, you're kind of, you get that equity as well. I mean, I'm sure there's a built-in, that's going to be somewhat built in the price when you do sell, but again, it's something that conveys.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Any other quick questions? Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Keith. That was great. Now I'm going to pull up Steve's slide from the Montgomery County Green Bank, who's also going to talk more about the Green Bank's financial products.
It's the next person. Yeah, there we go. Steve Morrell with the Montgomery County Green Bank.
Sorry, did I cut out?
Yeah, but it's okay. We moved on.
Sorry, I appreciate it. I'm sorry. There's tech issues at the office today.
No worries. Well, I'm happy to jump in. Good morning, everybody. Steve Morrell with the Montgomery County Green Bank. If you want to jump to the next slide. We are a green bank located in Montgomery County, Maryland. And I think that, Keith's already covered some of this, but green banks are a movement nationally. And it's important to keep in mind, especially if you're working in different jurisdictions. And we exist for achieving climate purposes within each jurisdiction. But I like to put up this information just as people think about what's the real purpose of a green bank as a public-private institution. We try and be financial solutions providers, really to overcome various financial barriers. So clearly, when that comes to the advantages of clean energy, there's perceptions, there's knowledge gaps, but there's a lot more related to credit, financing structures, and we try and work with a variety of different approaches to overcome that. If you want to go to the next slide. Like I mentioned, we're based in Rockville, and we serve Montgomery County. We are a nonprofit. We're a 501c3, so we're not an agency of the county, but the county has a couple seats on our board of directors. Most of our funding comes from an initial capitalization of a merger of the two utilities, Pepco and Exelon, and now a proportion of the fuel energy tax that's collected in Montgomery County comes to the Green Bank for our purposes, which is great in my view. The more that we're successful, the more that funding should actually go down over time. So we've got our 2024 results here that I'll have to update now that we've gotten our 25, but our whole focus is about how do we catalyze investment into projects. And so that's kind of our top line figure. On an aggregate basis, we're actually up to 229 million now and invested in projects. And the purpose is that we take a look at how are we reducing or offsetting GHG emissions? How are we supporting households? How do we support local economy? And so, certainly multifamily sector is a key area that we work to help move that positive change. If you want to head to the next slide. So I always mention that even though we're focused on clean energy, we actually work at the intersection of a variety of different areas, and certainly multifamily touches this across a lot of what people see in local economies as well. And so we try and think of what's the impact that we can reach in each of these sectors, and then how do we actually create the financial instruments to get it done. If you want to head to the next slide. And so how does that work? We're structured very similar to a fund. As I mentioned, we're a 501(c)(3), so we're already an independent entity, but we structure ourselves like a fund where we have front-end business development and origination folks. We think about how do we bring in the funding and manage that portfolio from a finance administration perspective and portfolio management, and our communications. How do we get out and talk to the community and really incorporate feedback from stakeholders in everything we do. Montgomery County actually is a very diverse county, including many languages that people speak on a day-to-day basis, and a variety of income levels. And so we try and make sure to represent a broad, different set of experiences within our staff and then our board as well. If you want to hit the next slide. So we have a couple of main programs we're focusing on in this upcoming fiscal year. Our BEPS readiness program is really the key that regulations were passed in Montgomery County. The state is now moving forward as well. And for properties to be ready, we want to be able to have funds available for both technical assistance and then as well as actual investments and capital expenditures that need to be made for BEPS compliance. Energized Multifamily is our specific affordable multifamily program where we're looking towards electrification, but generally energy efficiency projects and really reducing consumption within multifamily properties. We do support new construction, but primarily retrofits within that program. Our Resiliency Hub Accelerator, as we look at retrofits on a lot of properties, and including in some new construction instances as well. We want to try and create hubs that would be available for the community in the event of power outages in order to be resilient against natural physical hazards, especially heat, as we're all experiencing now. And then our EV charging program, EV SIP is our charging infrastructure program. This is also one that we've implemented for affordable multifamily properties, really to help solve kind of the chicken and egg situation of people saying, well, we don't see EV cars in the parking lot, and folks with cars say, well, we don't see the charging infrastructure. And to date, we've actually done this just as a bridge loan product to the great incentives that the state does. And so I know that you've heard a little bit about those, and any gaps that we need to fill or coordinate, we're happy to look at that. But we haven't had to do that to date. That's fortunately just been, work with the state, work with the utilities on the great incentives that are out there. And then we can eliminate the need to find upfront funding until construction is complete and those grants can come through. Going ahead to the next slide. So our technical assistance program is one that's relatively key here. We subsidize really between 25 up to 100% of technical assessments, which includes a pretty wide array of different types of assessments. The bread and butter of what we do is really from an ASHRAE audit perspective, all the way from very high level to very specific and investment grade audit. We'll do targeted analyses as well. Energy benchmarking and data verification is key, especially thinking about BEPS, any other type of specific feasibility studies that you may be looking at with a property. And so I put a QR code on here. I know that these slides will all be available for everyone, but you can also come to our website. We have about 35 technical providers currently in the program. And so if somebody comes to us with a property and says, I need to take a look at whatever they want technical assistance for, we'll help them match up with one of those providers. But the main source of activity actually comes through our providers. And so we work with technical providers who work directly with end users and just bring us those as programs or projects to be able to fund. These are grants at the end of the day, so they're of the benefit for the end user that will pay directly to the technical provider. If you want to head to the next slide. And then, following the technical assistance that we do, we fit in commercial financing programs. And so we've done financing programs as low as 100,000. We can technically go lower than that if the case warrants. And then the largest ticket size of any individual project that we do or loan size has really been about 5 million. We've gone up occasionally as needed as well. But as I mentioned earlier, our biggest purpose is to crowd in private sector investment. So we don't want to ultimately cover everything ourselves. We first want to make sure we partner with our partners that are on the call here, and then bring in private sector institutions as well, which we do with local banks, funds, commercial development finance institutions, other green banks. And so, a project may be much bigger than 5 million, but that may be the cap of where we look at on an individual investment size. We have a variety of commercial financing programs, and I highlight the commercial ones because that's how we kind of bucket in our multifamily, just as we'd be looking at, commercial owners of those multifamily properties. We have different single family home residential products that are not listed here. But I just wanted to make sure to put that distinction out. Includes, we are the CPACE administrator for Montgomery County, as Keith was just talking about for the state. We're also a small CPACE provider, projects under $1 million, which we feel is still a gap out there. I would agree wholeheartedly with the question that was just asked. CPACE is a challenge in the affordable space. CPACE is a super senior lien that gets put on a property. And so senior financiers of multifamily tend to not like that kind of activity, or it's a challenge to put within certain covenants, especially from a bond perspective. Our commercial solar power purchase agreement, we finance a lot of developers that do solar power PPAs or commercial leases. This is a really great tool to get solar on a property, but also overcome the landlord-tenant split in terms of how residents are going to be able to benefit from those PPA savings. Our small business energy savings support will support a lot of small businesses that may, even if they're just leasing properties as opposed to owning properties, thinking how they actually are more sustainable there. Our CLEAR product, Commercial Loan for Energy Efficiency and Renewables, is actually a credit enhancement product. We will put aside loan loss reserves. We put aside partial guarantees to help support financial institutions that may not have otherwise felt comfortable moving forward on a transaction. So if you're already working with someone like a Sandy Spring Bank or a Capital Bank, and they say, well, we're not really comfortable with the terms of this project, something like CLEAR is great for us to stand behind them and get them to move forward. And then tailored structured finance is really the catch-all there for anything that we haven't covered in a traditional bucket. The application process is kind of similar to as I highlighted above on the technical assistance. Come to our website, give us a call, and we then work through the process from there. Just given that every financing structure is fairly tailored, there's no kind of easy just fill out this one piece of information application, but it is relatively straightforward once you connect with our folks. And I think that may be it on slides. So I can't remember what I sent you, Madeline, but and then the case studies. So yes, also come to our website to see all of the case studies we've done. I do like highlighting these because it's easy to get overwhelmed with the opportunity of so many different financing structures. And it's a little easier to see within your kind of community of property. And, we have a bunch of different types here from multifamily to traditional commercial, faith-based organizations, even market rate. Multifamily. I encourage everybody to check out the website as well. So that's it for my slides, and happy to answer any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Any questions for Steve about the Green Bank's products?
This is maybe a dumb question, but you don't lend outside Montgomery County, I'm assuming?
We do not. And I'll put an asterisk on that, like everybody else is on federal money. We won a competitive award from the EPA that does enable us to work with MCEC and others to actually lend outside the county. And that's stuck in litigation right now. So I think that that'll be open by the end of the year. Hopefully, knock on wood, but I'm not able to really prognosticate those things anymore. It would be a significant amount of money. It's around $60 million that would be available. So stay tuned for that.
Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions for Steve? Oh, sorry, Danielle, I think I saw you off mute.
Yep. And I don't know if really this is a question for Steve or not. But for the community, for the power purchase solar program, do you know if the power generated on that, if we get credit for that towards meeting our BEPS requirements? I know for BEPS, you can only get credit for on-site solar, but I didn't know if you had to directly own it or if it would also qualify if it was owned by a third party.
Yeah, so within Montgomery County, you can get credit even if you're using a third-party developer. I don't know the rules for the rest of the state, so I don't know if anyone from one of the state agencies knows that either on this call, but in Montgomery County specifically, that would work.
Okay, thank you.
If no one from MDE is on the call today, I can follow up with Sam as well, and send out a note afterwards.
Great, thanks.
Any questions for Steve or any of our other presenters this morning? And once I send out the session resources, as you're reviewing the information, definitely feel free to reach out to anyone from MCEC, MEA, DHCD, or Montgomery County Green Bank. I'm sure they're always happy to chat and share more about their programs. In case any folks are typing in the chat, I just have a couple updates and reminders before we wrap up. If you signed up to participate in our track 3 technical assistance with New Ecology, we are planning to schedule kickoff calls with each of you for the first week of September. We may be reaching out with some preliminary questions to get a better sense of your organization's goals ahead of those kickoff calls. So just be on the lookout for an email from me over the next week or so. There's a few webinars that are coming up outside of our program that may be helpful for folks as well. The University of New Hampshire Center for Impact Finance is hosting a 2-part webinar series to talk through the changes to the ITC and what the new tax credit will look like under OBA. I'll put in the chat that registration link if you're interested. And then MEA is hosting a webinar on August 14th at 11 a.m. as part of the Clean Buildings First Movers webinar series, which is a series of peer learning opportunities to showcase and uplift what other building owners in Maryland are doing to help ensure BEPS compliance. The first speaker is going to be Broadmead Inc., which is a retirement community provider, and they're going to talk through their portfolio-wide compliance efforts and decarbonization efforts. So if you're interested in registering for that, I will put that link in the chat now. And then our next webinar is also on the 14th, but at 10 a.m. And we'll be joined by Joshua Galloway at New Ecology, who will walk us through best practices for energy audits and zero time plans, which would be a good first step or next step to look at for your properties, whether it's REBEP compliance, whether it's to leverage the various funding that our presenters talked about today. But just a good way to kind of assess how your portfolio is performing, what property should be a priority, and kind of what those best practices are. Any other questions for our presenters or comments before we wrap? I appreciate everyone's patience with technical issues this morning. I don't know what's going on in our office. Nicole, I saw you come off mute.
Yes. Hi, how are you? Is there a Baltimore City green bank or anything that's getting formed that you know of?
I'm not sure. Steve or Keith, are you aware?
No, nothing specifically in Baltimore City. Um, that would be under the jurisdiction for MCEC. So if you all have projects or you know folks that have projects, I think Keith's probably the best contact there. We can help take a look at things as well to pass to the right contacts. There are some CDFIs that operate in the area that may be interested in working in that kind of thing. So we can try and put together some contact information of the CDFIs working in the region. But yeah, no specific green bank or plans that I know of.
Yeah, just reach out to me and we can figure out what specifics on your project, or like Steve said, a CDFI maybe.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if there's nothing else, just want to say a huge thanks to Cindy, Angel, Keith, and Steve for joining us this morning and sharing more. I know it's always appreciated and it's great to learn about all the great funding opportunities that are in Maryland. We hope this webinar was informative and we look forward to seeing you all in a couple of weeks for our next one. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.